What's a moment so wholesome you'll never forget it as long as you live? When my son got diagnosed with selective mutism, his third-grade teacher, Mrs. Abbott, changed everything for our family. Sammy hadn't spoken a word in school since first grade. The psychiatrist said it was anxiety-based. He could talk perfectly fine at home, but the moment he stepped into school, it was like his voice box shut down completely. I'll never forget his first day in Mrs. Abbott's class. While other teachers had tried forcing him to speak or just given up entirely, she did something different. She put a small whiteboard and marker on his desk and whispered, "Sometimes our hearts have too many words for our mouths to say." That afternoon, for the first time ever, Sammy came home excited about school. He showed me his whiteboard, covered in conversations with Mrs. Abbott. She'd drawn little cartoons next to her responses, silly faces and weird animals that made him smile. Every morning, she had a new question written on his board. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? Or, what's the weirdest dream you've ever had? She'd share her own answers first, usually something ridiculous like, "I'd want the power to turn broccoli into ice cream," or, "I once dreamed I was a talking pickle in a rock band." Slowly, Sammy started engaging more. He'd draw his responses instead of writing them. Mrs. Abbott would absolutely lose it over his artwork, taping his drawings on a special wall she called Sammy's Silent Stories. One day, she noticed him staring at the class pet, a hamster named Mr. Squeaks. After class, she pulled me aside and asked if we'd be willing to hamster sit over the weekend. That Friday, Mr. Squeaks came home with us. I walked in on Sammy that night, sitting cross-legged in front of the cage, quietly telling Mr. Squeaks about his day. Mrs. Abbott had known exactly what she was doing. Every weekend after that, Mr. Squeaks would come home with us. Then came the class play. Instead of forcing Sammy to take a speaking role, she created a special part just for him, a mime who communicated through gestures and facial expressions. She told the class it was the most important role because sometimes the biggest stories are told without words. The other kids started picking up on her cues. They'd include him in games that didn't need talking, like tag or drawing contests. During group projects, they'd give him the artistic parts, proudly showing off his work to the class. One morning, I got a call from Mrs. Abbott. She was crying. Sammy had been working with Mr. Squeaks, who'd gotten his paw stuck in the cage. Without thinking, he'd called out, "Mrs. Abbott, help! His paw is stuck!" The entire class froze. It was the first time they'd ever heard his voice. But instead of making a big deal about it, Mrs. Abbott just said, "Thank you for telling me, Sammy. Let's help our friend." She told me later that after fixing Mr. Squeaks' paw, she'd overheard two students talking. One asked, "Did you know Sammy could talk?" The other just shrugged and said, "He's always been talking. We just weren't listening right." From that day on, Sammy started speaking in class. Not all the time, and not to everyone, but progress was progress. Mrs. Abbott kept his whiteboard on his desk, though, saying some days are whiteboard days, and that's perfectly okay. At the end of the year, Mrs. Abbott gave Sammy a special gift, Mr. Squeaks' cage with a note that read, "Sometimes the best conversations happen without words." That weekend, I was doing laundry when I heard multiple voices coming from Sammy's room. I peeked in to find him hosting a class with his stuffed animals, teaching them just like Mrs. Abbott had taught him, with patience, understanding, and his trusty whiteboard. Today, Sammy's in high school. He still has quiet days, but he's found his voice.